Well, hey there. Welcome on into VGMporium, video game music, and more. And today, we're going to be focusing on the more part. Because, with what MAGwest coming up, let's see here, tomorrow, which I will be going to all 3 days of, I've decided to feature the original music of those that I've gotten to know through the podcast as well as on SoundCloud. I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I figured, hey, the day before MAGwest would be probably the best time to do it. And, as you know, MAGwest or MAGfest is Music and Gaming Festival, and it's basically just all going to be about music and gaming, and these two things just smash together so lovingly. And, the majority of it is going to be cover bands playing covers of video game music, which is, that's going to be awesome. But what I'm really excited for is the original music that's going to be, happening there that is inspired by that video game music that we're there to celebrate. Now, the songs I'm going to be featuring today, I didn't pick willy-nilly. I actually asked each artist, which song they'd like me to feature on the show. And so, yeah, these are their picks, be it their favorite, one they're most proud of, or one they're just happen to be liking at the moment. So getting into this proper, the song that brought us in was Watch Your Step by Dropbit featuring Robaga, aka Rob2612, Dread, and MB Tech. And this is a chiptune made using the YM2612 and the SN76489 in, I want to say, the VGM Music Maker, going off how long ago this was made. And this is very much giving me the good feels here. Because, if you've been listening for a good while, I did an episode focusing on the Sega Genesis chiptune scene of the 2010s, which all four of these guys were a part of. And yeah, it's just so much good music coming out. So now Dropbit, who is the head on this collab here, I recently connected with through the Deflamask Discord server. And it's just been kind of cool to reconnect with another person that was part of that scene. And, they were really in it because they did a lot of collaboration tracks, especially with these three that are on this track here. Though mostly Robaga I'm seeing a lot. And, they've done a few original tracks as well. And what I could glean from all of these is that they have like this really kind of like more darker jazz, hip hop, like grungy electronic vibe. And as you can probably tell with this track, it makes for a really nice bass for all these others to just riff on. And so in chatting with Dropbit, they haven't really been making much in the past few years. They're just now starting to really get back into making music. So their SoundCloud channel, which is Dropbit, features like some of these, newer ones, but mostly these collaborations from about 9-8 years ago. And then they have a second channel, which I imagine got filled up, so they had to make a newer one, which has a lot more older stuff, mostly collaborations again, and like more work in progresses. So now digging into this track a little bit, again, that bass of like kind of like that darker jazz hip hop vibe from Dropbit. And then of course you have right here, Dread just going crazy with the solos. And then after this comes in Robaga with his more kind of like smoother, jazzier sound. And then towards the end, you got MB Tech with their more kind of abstract style, is the best way I can put it. All four of them, separately are pretty amazing, but then coming together like this and just being able to mesh like a song together, and so many of them too, is just kind of mind-blowing. There was some kind of crazy magical alchemy going on with all these collaborations. And just all these things they were able to squeeze out of the Sega Genesis, especially with the buggy tracker that is VGM Music Maker. Magic. So I would highly recommend you go check out their SoundClouds. I'll be linking them in the show notes, as well as all the other artists. And yeah, give it a listen because it is like top class Sega Genesis chip tune. So now getting into our next track, this is going to be Saltwater by Haberchuck. That was Saltwater by Haberchuck, though I remember him saying it as Haberchuck. Not sure which one it is. And this is a single from a project that they're currently working on called Low Res Cocktails. Now, Haberchuck is a project made up of two guys, Brandon Habura and Chuck Kowalski. And it is actually Chuck who is on the chiptune side of things, and actually I had him on as a guest on the show. That was episode 71, Night Jam. And I've gotten to know him online over the past 2 years, largely connecting through our love of video game music and FM chiptune. And so he's relatively new to the chiptune scene, but just in these 2 years that I've been talking with him and everything, he's improved a lot. And I'm actually kind of blown away by just like the quality chiptune that he's making. And the reason for that, I believe, is Battle of the Bits. Yep, once he got hooked onto that, he's just been making stuff just non-stop. And so now with this song, I want to say that he made this using either the YM2151 with the Sega PCM because he's using samples here, or the YM2608, which has multiple sample channels as well, because I forgot to ask him. And the style that he went with here definitely fits that Night Jam descriptor. You know, Chuck is capable of many styles, all ranging from like thrashy punk rock to slow jazz jams like this. You know, it definitely sets the scene for kind of like a contemplative moment down maybe at the docks, or as you're walking by a cityside beach during the nighttime, or as the album name would suggest, having a cocktail at like kind of a dark, smoky bar, just kind of sitting by yourself with your thoughts. And so, if you'd like to check out all Haberchuck's music, chiptune or otherwise, I'll be linking their Bandcamp and SoundCloud in the show notes. And hey, why not give him a follow on Instagram or Twitter? Because whenever they post their music, he has like some really cool graphics going on along with it. So now it's time to liven things back up again with our next track coming from Ranger BTS. This is Barista Bootcamp from their album Spring Things. That was Barista Bootcamp by Ranger BTS from their album Spring Things. Now, would you believe that this was made using an online music making tool, and that Ranger BTS has been able to make countless quality tunes with this online tool? I'm still kind of coming to grips with it. So what this tool is called is Beatbox, and what Ranger BTS has been using are various mods on it, such as Jumbox, Ultrabox, and Pandora's Box. And so what the base Beatbox has is a piano roll, pattern matrix, and then some simple settings, and then various samples and simple synthesis that you can use. And then these modifications build upon that, like mostly adding newer samples, different synths. And with just this simple tool, you can create jams like this. And I can see how it lends itself to just non-stop creativity, because all it does is present you this one screen, all your options are there, and then the only thing that changes is the piano roll because of like the pattern matrices and everything. So I've been listening to Ranger BTS for the last couple years now, and yeah, it's just really cool because like the first song I heard, He had this really cool, like, bouncy, jazzy sound, and just over the, like, this last couple of years, just kind of, like, built on that, and then, of course, adding, like, different sounds and all as, like, these different modifications come out for beatbox. And their music is a mighty fine example of digital fusion. So now talking about this song here, I really like the percussion, just how expressive it is, and also adding, you know, again, that kind of bouncy feel. But I gotta admit, my favorite part is this little melody that comes up a couple times in this song, and I'll point it out when it shows up. So if you're interested in checking out their music, and I sure hope you are, the album I suggest checking out, because it's, you know, my favorite so far, is Zone 294. And now actually that melody bit I was talking about is gonna be coming up right here. Let's take a listen. So nice. So we're gonna get on to our next track, and this is coming from Crazy Goji. It's called Mall Rompin', and it's done in collaboration with Amimi Fafa. And that was Mall Rompin' by Crazy Goji featuring Amimi Fafa. And this is definitely something that would be playing while you're doing parkour through the mall. You know, running along that wall, jumping down a flight of stairs, kicking off of that Galcia there, doing flips over some signals, and then doing a handstand on Donovan's head. You know, he's got a bald head. It's some good grip there. So now Crazy Goji, this boy who happens to be crazy for Gojira and other giant monsters. So if you've been listening to the show for a while, this name Crazy Goji may sound familiar because they have been a regular in doing special orders. I mentioned them a few times on the show. Even like a good example was last week's episode, Kaiju Carlito. And hey, here we are, buddy. I'm playing one of your songs on my show, finally. Though I did play your song that was a Christmas cover back on the Christmas episode from the Signcraft Christmas album. And so how he largely makes his music is in FL Studios using the Jenny VST, which emulates the YM2612. So hey, another Genesis chiptunist. So as one thing I've noticed as his music has been progressing over the years is that his style has been kind of getting into the realms of Norio Hanzawa, who is the fella that did the music for Gunstar Heroes and Alien Soldier and many other treasure soundtracks. And it's coming through strong in this track here. Though the solo-y jazzy piano bits are Amimi Fafa, I believe, and you know, this what little I've listened to their music, it tracks. So now back to this Crazy Goji, Thing Gojira. A good place to start if you want to start listening to their music is their album that they just released through Lilypad called Horsey Tunes. It definitely shows off the wide range of his interesting composition style. And of course, as always, check out his SoundCloud. It's currently under Thing Gojira. And this is definitely not going to be the last time you'll hear his music on the show. And that do be a fact. So now moving into our next track here, this is coming from Sontaku Oji, and it is called Fun Times in Childhood. You just heard Fun Times in Childhood by Sontaku Ouji. And I'm going to start off by saying that I really do enjoy all their music. There's a pure-heartedness to it, and it captures this particular sound that I've been chasing since my trip to Japan in 2015. Some of these instrumental songs I'd hear, I'm like, while I was walking about, either coming from shops or supermarkets or in the underground tunnels between JR stations. In my opinion, Sontaku's channeling something magical here. Now I'll address something that you may have noticed that, there is some volume distortion going on here. I'd imagine they're just exporting their music that they make in their purest form with minimal to no mastering possibly. And if this is the case, I kind of envy them because, when I make music that isn't chiptune, I kind of get caught up in the finite details of EQing, volume levels, compression, all that stuff. And then even doing chiptune, I get bogged up, of course, on volume levels. And of course, am I using this effect right? Am I is this patch doesn't quite sound like how I was imagining it would sound? So yeah, getting that aside, like I said, there's a pureness to their music and I really enjoy it. So now how I came to know Sontaku Ouji is, I was starting to like and repost some of their music, and then one day they happened to comment on one of my tracks saying, thanking me for liking and reposting their songs like that, and then we've kind of gotten into conversations every once in a while through comments on each other's songs, and yeah, it's just been really nice interactions. So now as far as what they're making their music with, I want to say it's Core Gadget. I think I saw it somewhere on a comment once, but I'm not 100% sure. I wasn't able to get a straight answer before I started recording this, so if I do find out afterwards, I'll be sure to let you know, because their music will be definitely making its way back onto the podcast sometime in the future. Believe you me. But until then, give them a follow on SoundCloud. I'll be linking it in the show notes. Alright, up next we have Modal Module, and the track I have from them is Antimony Peak. That was Antimony Peak by Modal Module. So now I may not play much of it on here, but I do really enjoy music made using the Game Boy sound chip, and this here is no exception. Because back in the day, majority of the original Game Boy chiptune I would hear was like, standard 4-to-the-floor EDM style stuff that just kind of turned me off of it. But of course, in recent years, I've really started to kind of dig back into, Game Boy chiptune, and it's definitely something like this that makes me really warm back up to it. But as you can tell, this song is not only using the Game Boy sound chip, but also incorporates orchestral, strings in this, as well as actual, sampled percussion. And they mesh together surprisingly well. And the very end, you may hear a FM bass patch in there, which I thought was really cool. And the one who made this, Modal Module, they're a really cool guy. And how I got introduced to them was back in January of this year. I guess they had found my show and tried to, go to my link tree and go to my Discord, but couldn't because I guess I was using a temporary link that expired like in 7 days or something. So he just messaged me on Twitter and said, "Hey, your link ain't working." So I done fixed it, and then he showed up on the Discord server and just kind of hanging out and chatting every once in a while. And he just recently shared something on there which is called the Ultimate Chip, which is a project he just finished, which is a board that has the DMG, which is the Game Boy sound chip, YM2612, which was used in the Sega Genesis, and the SNES APU, which contains the SPC 700, which is, the sound chip for the Super Nintendo. And it is a MIDI-controlled device that will be able to use all three of these sound chips at once. And he's already shared a video of him using an M8 to control this thing before it was all put together proper, when it was just a mess of, devices and wires and everything. And I'm looking forward to seeing more of this mad device in action. But that's not the only thing they've been doing recently. They've actually been working on a soundtrack for a game called Decline's Drop, which is currently in development, and they just shared a reel of the music on their Twitter and YouTube. But they have also done other soundtracks in the past. Some games to name off are Legend of Kendor, Super Gear Quest, Hyper Hitboxing, Rescape, and Shadow Tales, just to name a few. And of course, a lot of original music, most of it chiptune, majority of it is Game Boy, some of it being, Sega Genesis, YM2612 stuff, and then SNES as well. And one more thing I just found out is, through the episode I did last week with Kung Fu Carlito, is that Modal Module is the keyboardist and drummer for the cover band Shred Nobi. So we'll definitely have to check out their stuff as well. All right, getting into our next track here. This is coming from MAGwest, or as I know them on Discord, Ciala, and the song is called Heart of Arrows, Hood's Theme. That was Heart of Arrows, Hood's Theme, by MAGwest. Going off the track notes on SoundCloud, this was originally intended for a Sega Genesis homebrew game, but ended up being entered in for a compilation album called Fantasy Jams. And this theme, of course, is for a character named Hood, who is a forest bandit who swoops in and saves your party from sudden death at the hand of petty thieves. So now, if I didn't know that this was made 7 months ago or even know who had made it, I would probably really think that this was for a Sega Genesis game from way back in the day. I could totally imagine a really cool, long-lost action-adventure RPG that came out at the end of the life of the Sega Genesis. You know, something definitely a lot more faster-paced than something like Crusader Ascenti, which this does make me think of a lot. So now, MAGwest was one of those that was very much part of the Sega Genesis chiptune scene of the 2010s, and actually featured them in the Model 2 episode. And the way I connected with them recently was the same way I connected with Dropbit, was within that Deflamas Discord thread. And we've had, a few really nice conversations, kind of like dispersed throughout the last few months. But, as far as their music goes, it's really, really good. They've only have maybe about 5 tracks shared on SoundCloud. I don't know if they have shared it anywhere else. And it's all Sega Genesis and Sega Master System chiptune. The one thing I did notice is that they do have a few Phantasy Star covers on there. And now that I think about it, this does kind of make me think of, some Phantasy Star 4. And the profile pic for their Ciala account on Discord is Nay from Phantasy Star 2. So I'm having a feeling that they are a bit of a Phantasy Star head. So MarkBot, I look forward to more conversations with you. And if you ever do make more music, let me know, and I'll gladly feature it on the podcast. All right, so now we're getting to the last artist of this episode, and their name is Nick Roeslian Oleksiak, and the song I'll be playing from them is called Getting Stuff Done. And that was Getting Stuff Done by Nick Roeslian Oleksiak. And, there were 2 tracks of his I was trying to pick from. This one and another one called Are You Even There, which is a little bit more like kind of moodier, melancholy, really beautiful. And but my kinetic sensibilities won out. And of course, how could I resist that sax at the second half? I mean, how could I? I couldn't. So now, Nick, I've been following and listening to their music for a good number of years now on SoundCloud, and this is actually the first time I've ever actually reached out to them. But yeah, their music is all over the place. They can do rock stuff. They can do stuff like this, really kind of emotional, like melancholy, EDM, industrial noise rock. And the really amazing thing is that they have a new song out almost every other day, if not every day, and it has been consistently good music. Now, the one thing I don't know is as to why he is making all of this music, whether if it's just because he has just this constant flow of creativity going, if he's like doing it for commissions or like, other kind of projects. This is something I probably should have asked him when I was asking for permission to play his music on the show, but this is something I probably, there's a lot of things I probably should have asked everybody before, actually recording, but here I am, wallowing in hindsight. So now, do give Nick a follow on SoundCloud as well as on Spotify, which I just found him on, because his music is great and is deserving of appreciation. I mean, everybody's music that I just featured today is deserving of all this appreciation. So I highly recommend you go into the show notes, because all the links to everybody's respective SoundClouds, Bandcamps, Spotify's, whatever, whatever they have, and I find, just go there, give them a follow, listen to their music, like it, repost it, because they deserve it. Now, I'd like to thank you for coming into VGMporium, and if this is your first time in, possibly at the suggestion of one of these folks I featured today, welcome, and thank you for checking it out. And hey, if you'd like to check out more of VGMporium, I've got about 80 episodes in the backlog. I mean, that's a crazy amount. I got all kinds of different things, so you don't have to listen to them all. And where you can check them all out is on your favorite podcatchers, such as Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, and then, of course, the website, VGMporium.wordpress.com. And then there's Twitter and Instagram at VGMporium. And I'll be sharing all my videos and pictures of my adventures at MAGwest. So definitely a lot of pictures and videos, but I'm really hoping to get are a lot of candid interviews, with which I will cobble together 1 or 2 episodes from, as well as an episode featuring music by those that perform at MAGwest, or, some of them at least. So again, thank you for coming into VGMporium, and again, make sure to check out everybody's music here that I just featured today. I'll be having all their links in the show notes to their music, to their socials, all that. Just check them out.